Hello everyone, welcome to the Gravity channel. In this video, we are going to see about Coulomb's law for electrostatic interaction. We have seen interaction between charges, but qualitatively. The positives repel, the negatives repel, positive and negative charge attract each other. So today we are going to see how much. So Coulomb, Charles Augustin de Coulomb, he was a French military scientist. He gave the exact formula for how much attraction or repulsion is there between charges. So the statement goes this way. The electrostatic interaction force between two charged particles is directly proportional to the product of the charges and inversely to the square of distance between them. Equation wise, we should see Fe, where the subscript E stands for electrostatic. So electrostatic force equals to proportional to Q1 times Q2 divided by square of distance. So it's sometimes R square and sometimes D square. It's the same thing. So this is the law giving force between charged particles. Now force is a vector quantity. So in this law, in this statement, we have only discussed magnitude yet. We'll discuss direction later. So force is a vector quantity, so we have to discuss about direction too. Okay, so this is half the law, half the Coulomb's law, magnitude of force. The next half, direction of force, we'll see later. So the magnitude of force depends on the product of charges and inversely to the square of distance between them. Now how did Coulomb come to this point? Coulomb get to find this. So he made a torsional apparatus. Coulomb actually designed a torsional apparatus which was later used to find gravitational constant value also. So the torsional apparatus is a roof, a rigid roof through which a twistable rod is hung, below which a rigid rod is hung, which has two spheres which can be charged. Now this torsional apparatus is meant to rotate. A torque is supposed to be applied. So electrostatic torque is supposed to be applied. This can be done by taking another charged ball, keeping it here so that this charged ball attracts this one. Now the charge on these balls is say Q1 and Q2. Charge on one of them is doubled. Say this one becomes 2Q1. The force between them was found to be double. Now charge on this one was doubled. The force between them was again found to be double. The distance between them was increased twice. The force decreased 4 times. If the distance is increased thrice, the force decreased 9 times. So by a lot of repetition of this kind of experiments, he came to this formula. Okay. So F proportional to Q1 Q2 by R square. Now if we take the proportionality sign away, we have to introduce some constant obviously, and K is the favorite name for a constant. So here also F is given by K times Q1 Q2 by R square. So you have to keep in mind that this K is to be written as the small letter k. The capital letter K means something else in electrostatics. So this is small k, sometimes also written as Ke. So this K is electrostatic constant. Now you may remember a similar law for gravitation. Fg equals to G, capital G, m1 m2 by R square. Now the G in gravitational force is called universal constant for gravitation. The K in electrostatic force is just called constant of electrostatic. Now it's not called universal. The term universal is missing because the K of electrostatic changes its value from medium to medium. It has a different value for air, it has different value for water, for metals, everywhere. So that is why it is not called universal constant. So later on it was found that K further consisted of 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. I have 4 and pi are constants obviously. Epsilon is a Greek letter. So epsilon is electric permittivity of medium. The epsilon naught, the 0 subscript stands for vacuum. So epsilon naught is electric permittivity of vacuum. Similarly, we may take epsilon W, EW. So that would be electric permittivity of water. So K, the constant K, was found to be consisting of further these constants. 4 pi are constants everywhere, but epsilon changes with medium. So if we substitute 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught in the place of K, we see electrostatic force equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square. Now here epsilon is variable, it varies according to medium, electric permittivity. So we'll discuss a little about that. So what could physically epsilon mean? So the name is permittivity, electric permittivity. So this suggests that it shows the property of a medium that permits electrostatic interaction. Now we may see the force inversely depends to permittivity. This indicates that higher the permittivity, lesser is the interaction between charged particles. Okay. Suppose these two charges, let's call them Q1 and Q2, are kept in vacuum. So the distance between them is say 1 unit. The force between them is say F. Let's put F naught, not for vacuum. Now, if this system is immersed in water, keeping the distance same, the amount of charge is same, then the force Fw is 81 times less than the force F naught. If we write the equation of F naught is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square. Fw, that means force in water, is 1 by 4 pi epsilon Q1 Q2 by R square. Now E for water is 81 times greater than E for vacuum. E for air is 1.006 times greater than E for vacuum. So this implies that higher the number permittivity of a medium, lesser is the force electrostatic interaction between the charged particles. Okay, I hope permittivity is clear. The unit of K would be Newton meter square per Coulomb square. So the unit of permittivity should be inverse of that, Coulomb square per Newton meter square. The permittivity of vacuum is 8.854 into 10 to the power minus 12 Coulomb square per Newton meter square. So if you put this value in 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, you get the value of K, which is roughly 8.9755 into 10 to the power 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. You have to remember these values. They will be applied a lot in your electrostatic section and elsewhere also in electromagnetism in general. Now, I hope this magnitude thing is clear. One more thing we like to discuss is, suppose Q1, Q2, the two charges both are positive. So their product is positive. The force comes out to be positive. Now we know that two positive charges repel each other. Suppose Q1 and Q2, both of them are negative. So the product of two negatives is still a positive. Again, two negatives repel each other. So if the force comes out to be positive, it is repulsion. Now suppose one of the charges is positive and other is negative. So their product is negative. We know opposite charges attract each other. Now for positive and negative, the force comes out to be negative. So if the value of force given to you is negative, you have to understand that the force is attraction. So positive force indicates repulsion, negative force indicates attraction. Okay. I hope the magnitude part is clear. Now let's discuss about the direction of forces. The second part of the Coulomb's law says that this force acts along the line joining the two charges. Now mind you, this law is valid only for point charges, or specifically point charged particles. Now what are point particles in general? Whenever the size of the objects is much smaller compared to the distance between them, they are called point objects. For example, Earth is nowhere a point object, but when you look at a solar scale, it can be considered to be a point object because the distance between Sun and Earth is much greater than the size of the Earth. So when two charges are much smaller compared to the distance between them, they are called point charges. So this law is valid only for point charges. Now suppose Q1 and Q2 are 2 point charges located at R1 and R2. Now the distance between them is R12. So this vector R12 goes from 2 to 1. So this vector R12 is R1 minus R2. Okay. So to complete the Coulomb's equation, we write as F equals to K Q1 Q2 by R square. This is the magnitude, multiplied by unit vector R12. Unit vector gives the direction from on 1 by 2. So from 2 to 1. Okay. So 2 pushes 1 in this way. For sake of simplicity, we are considering both to be like charges. Maybe both to be positive charges. So if now we want to find the force on 2 by 1, the direction is obviously opposite. So the equation F21 on 2 by 1 is K Q1 Q2 by R square, unit vector R21. So unit vectors are vectors divided by their own magnitude. So unit vector R12 is equal to vector R12 divided by magnitude of R12. The magnitude is the distance between the charges. So unit vector R12 is equal to R1 minus R2 divided by R. Substitute this into the Coulomb's law. So F vector F becomes K Q1 Q2 by R square, R1 minus R2 vectors by R. So denominator has a R square and an R. So both combine to form R cube. Okay. So finally the vectorial form of Coulomb's law is F equals to K Q1 Q2 R1 minus R2 by R cube. F21 is K Q1 Q2 R2 minus R1 by R cube. So R2 minus R1 can be exchanged and a minus sign can be added. So we can see that F21 is minus F12. So Newton's third law is applicable here also. Okay. I hope the direction part is clear. So you have to remember that this, though we have discussed this with respect to 2 positive charges only, it is equally valid for 2 negative or 1 positive and 1 negative charge. So this completes Coulomb's law for electrostatic interaction. So today's quote: it is very difficult for like things to come together and unlike things to depart. Thanks for watching.